So last week, some secret memos published in The Guardian have revealed just how extensive the domestic surveillance program has been under the Obama administration. It's been a huge can of political worms and a lot of nagging questions, one without adequate clarity on what's really going on and what it all means. So that's where I come in. Today's video comes to you in 3 parts. Part 1, what's actually being done here? As you might expect, there's more to these stories than is being told. The recent revelations relate to 3 separate programs. The first of these is PRISM, a non-domestic surveillance program which harvests content data from internet and phone usage. Then there's the acquisition of record logs from phone companies like Verizon, though there's common knowledge that other companies are tapped on a revolving basis. This one ostensibly feels innocuous because it's only metadata, things like who called who, but not what was said. But there's a lot more that can be done with that data, more on that later. Then there's the exposure of the backdoor access that the government has to major companies' servers, companies like Google, Apple, and Skype, allowing them to get at everything from what you say to Siri to what you put in your Gmail. But beyond these revelations, there are a few more major surveillance projects that haven't been brought up. For example, the FBI is deploying face tracking software for those ubiquitous security cameras that you see everywhere. This software is so cutting edge that it can identify an individual in a crowd of 1 million with a 92% accuracy. And then there's the NSA's new Utah data center, armed to the teeth with cutting-edge algorithms, supercomputers, and enough storage capacity to log the world's internet use for years. This nubile data center is no whimpering baby. Taken together, these programs allow for the near-omnipotent tracking of both the digital and physical footprint of nearly every citizen. Now, the least understood of these programs are actually the ones that use metadata. If you remember back to our video on social networking, you might actually be able to see what can be done here. Using nothing more than metadata, it is possible to construct a coherent picture of the interpersonal relationships between nearly everyone. Doing so gives a high-resolution image of more than just who knows who. Even a few facts about a few individuals can allow us to accurately predict the closeness, identities, sexual orientations, and political ideas of all other members of their social network. This is because the way that social bonds form and fragment are based upon these characteristics. All that's necessary is to trace the form of these social networks and find cliques and cross-affiliations. By identifying interconnections between groups and people, we can assess what people believe and do, identify groups of liberals and conservatives, and trace circles around activists. No, seriously, there is a proof of concept on this. It is real. And with known security experts saying that the phones of every Occupy Wall Street protester were logged, there's adequate seed data to do this. Part 2. Holy spooks wet dream! Is the government spying in on my Little Pony sex chats? No. Even with the Utah data center's capacities, analyzing every conversation would be inefficient. That's where the metadata becomes significant. Utilizing that picture of the population allows the government to hone in only on groups of people designated as important. But that's only reassuring so long as the government doesn't have a problem with My Little Pony sex chats. Say that a government informant has let us know that John here is a known My Little Pony sex chatter. Every week, John contacts Miguel, as do 7 other people. None of these people speak to each other directly, except in a monthly pattern at a specified time. Unlike John's friends and family, these calls are not random or distributed evenly over time, leading us to suspect that Miguel may be the hub in a spoke and wheel format of a social structure that is a My Little Pony sex chat group. In such a way, they can be specifically targeted and resources can be utilized in the most efficient manner. Basically, if you're boring enough, no one's probably watching you. But targeting groups becomes incredibly easy, and history does not paint a pretty picture of how governments have used such powers. Part 3. Is this legal? Hell, is it moral? In theory, the 4th Amendment could bar such programs, but there are laws authorizing them. People who've tried to challenge these laws have run into a catch-22. See, because the programs are secret, no one knows exactly who is being spied upon. And to challenge a law's constitutionality, you have to prove that you, specifically, were harmed by the law. Before these leaks, no one could prove that they were. But now Verizon customers may have legal standing, enough to bring in more judicial oversight and citizen review. Now, the government claims that these programs are overseen and target only legitimate threats, but the secret FISA courts overseeing them have never once denied a request to spy. And there are key Congress members who have said that there's more that we don't know, things that they claim the American public would be outraged to hear about. Even if we assume that the government at present is using these only for the utmost good, we have to consider the fact that a former intelligence officer once called these tools turnkey totalitarian, meaning that all it would take is one bad actor using them to create an Orwellian dystopia. Now, there are legitimate uses to these tools, but without actual independent civilian oversight, there's no guarantee that they will be limited to these uses. And, despite what all the pundits are sputtering about on CNN, these leaks have not harmed national security. All of this has been well known about for years. Heck, anyone could have opened up a copy of the OpenNet Initiative, or Wired, or even the New York Times, and they would have learned about these things. But what the leaks have done is opened up a public debate, and that is the healthiest thing for a democracy to have. Whether you think these programs are right or wrong, being able to discuss that is critically important to the democratic infrastructure. We have a lot to tackle with this issue, and many questions to be asked about the entire national security apparatus. But we couldn't hope to do that without adequate and proper knowledge about the issues. So discuss. Just be willing to hear each other out on the issue. As always, Riley here. Peace until Friday.